Hello there everybody, my name's Terry, I'm the board modeler and this is not a video I expected to be making right now. I'll explain why in a moment. Also, I'll explain where I've been these past few months, where I plan for this channel to go in the next few months, and what I'm building in the background. Anyway, I've got quite a lot written down here that I want to talk about, so let's get started I guess. Right, first off, my apologies for the lack of uploads over the past few months. I'll go into the reasons why in a moment, but sorry for not putting out any new stuff recently. Anyway, what you're seeing in the background of this video is the new stuff I was planning to upload. Actually, about a couple of months ago in fact. The reason you're seeing it now, and not in its fully edited form either, is partly due to some changes that have occurred in my life at the start of this year, but mostly due to the fact that I lost most of the raw footage and the partially edited video when my hard drive crashed. I may remake the video as intended, if I can recover the material I lost, but that's a pretty big if, so we'll see what we can do. All that aside though, let's talk about what I'm actually building here. It's Revell's 1:144th scale A380, with included cabin interior, and as you can see, it's actually a rebuild of a model I'd initially finished about a decade ago I think. Of course I was a pretty young kid back then, so the model wasn't built very well and fell apart after a couple of years. I've always wanted to rebuild it, and last year with the centenary of Qantas in November, I finally decided how to do it. My plan was to use the interior of the old kit, along with some new parts I planned to design and 3D print, to replicate the cabin of Qantas's A380s, and then replace the lost or damaged exterior parts with those from a regular A380 kit, which is identical to the A380 with interior, save for the lack of cabin and about a $100 price difference. The build itself took me just over 6 months from start to finish, and probably pushed me further out of my comfort zone than any other model I've ever made. It started out easily enough, with me pulling apart the old model, recovering and disassembling the interior, and stripping off the old paint. That was fairly easy, because younger me painted the whole thing with a brush and without any form of clear coat. I then proceeded to cut away the first class section and take it and the upper deck off the model. To replace those parts, I designed new, more Qantas specific cabin sections in Fusion 360 and 3D printed them. After a bit of cleanup and sanding, the parts were epoxied to the old cabin sections and primed. I used Mr. Surfacer in black for a couple of reasons. First, the primer helped to eliminate the layer lines, and it also prevented the LED cabin lights I was going to install later from showing through the upper deck floor. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to successfully recover the footage of me installing the lighting, or a substantial portion of the construction footage for that matter, but let's just say that running fibre optic lighting strands through the horizontal stabilisers and onto the top of the fuselage is a huge pain. The final construction was fairly easy, although I did have to cut a big hole in the new fuselage to allow the cabin to be visible. Well, 2 big holes actually. I left a strip of fuselage in the middle to cure one of the issues from the original kit, which is that the weight of the left-hand wing and landing gear would cause the fuselage to bend and eventually split along the seam lines. After putting the plane together, I primed the aircraft, again using Mr. Surfacer to block light and give a smooth finish, and painted it. This turned out to be more of a challenge than I'd expected, mostly because the white paint didn't provide the coverage I'd expected from the initial coats. After I finally got the paint to look right, I began applying the decals, which also didn't go to plan. The aftermarket decals, produced by BS Model by the way, were pretty nice, apart from the massive white kangaroos, which were incredibly thin. This was good when it came to getting them into surface details, but it did result in these huge decals being quite fragile. The kit decals though were just honestly infuriating. They either refused to stick to the model, despite having gloss clear coated and applied setting solution beforehand, or they folded up on themselves and broke apart. I found that a bit unusual because I've never had decals from Revell perform this badly. Maybe something had gone wrong with my surface prep, or maybe I just got a bad batch, but either way, once I'd managed to get the decals done, I gave the model a semi-gloss clear coat and mounted it on a nice heavy wooden stand, which hopefully won't tip over and drop the kit. Again. Okay, so that's the story of where I've been, but before I show you the finished model, let's talk about where this channel's going. Considering how I wound up losing most of my channel when my hard drive got corrupted, I'm basically starting from square one. Well, apart from the existing videos and subscribers. And thanks for sticking around, by the way, I really appreciate it. I've done a bit of thinking and decided that, well, I want to do videos which are more history focused, in addition to the model builds and reviews I already do. I'm planning to do a series of videos focused on some of the more unusual or obscure aircraft, ships and vehicles throughout history, talking about how and why they were developed and built, and what they achieved, or didn't achieve, in some cases. I'll combine, or follow most likely, the history videos with build videos, showcasing how I made the models of the vehicles in question. I will also continue to do kit reviews, which will have the usual short historical summaries about the vehicles within them, but because I lost the review scoreboard in the great hard drive corruption of 2021, we'll be starting again with those. Oh, and another thing before I wrap up this video. I've decided to rebrand the channel, as to be honest, I don't like the name Board Models that much anymore. From now on, in line with the new historical videos I plan on making, this channel's going to be called Parts of History, which I'll change the name to shortly after this video goes to air, so in the past by the time you're watching this. Anyway, that's all I've got to say for now. Hopefully you guys like the new content I've planned, and hopefully, time and technology permitting, I'll actually provide that content on a somewhat regular basis. For now though, thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing if you have. My name's Terry, I was the board modeler, and now, finally, here's that A380 I promised you. See you in the next video, and happy modelling.